Hello and welcome to the Post to Post podcast. It is podcast number 31. It is January 14th. We're into the 30s already. How excited are you?
Well, I can hardly stand it.
You don't look that excited.
I am quite excited, actually. Podcasting's a big deal, and it's getting to be a bit of a bigger deal. There's a new podcast that started up in the hockey world, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit later.
Oh, is it the Elliot Friedman's 31 Thoughts thing?
Yeah.
I haven't listened to it yet. But
Thanks for spoiling the surprise.
I hear good things.
Yeah, it's going to be a good podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. How often does it get released?
It looks like it's going to be a weekly thing on Wednesdays.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Elliot puts his column out, I think, on Tuesday or Wednesday. So he and Jeff Merrick will make the podcast and put it out each Wednesday, which is a great time because a lot of this stuff, like our stuff, has to happen on a weekend.
Who puts a podcast out on a Wednesday? That's a great time. Like for them. Like,
oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, it's perfect.
Nobody puts a podcast out on Wednesday, so
yeah,
that's a good place for them to slot in.
I think it's great. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be good. I downloaded the first episode, and I don't want this to sound bad, but I put it in my earphone because when I go to bed at night, I usually listen to podcasts until I fall asleep. And I fell asleep during the podcast, so that's a good sign for me because it's not something like that means they're not yelling at each other.
Right.
So that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's totally fine.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually have a lot of things on my list to talk about. I know that you do. You probably have more than I do.
I might.
So let's start with your scores from last night.
Sure. Last night and a couple of afternoon games as well. A lot of teams are into their break now, like Columbus. The Columbus Blue Jackets, for instance, played Friday night. They don't play again till next weekend. So there's other teams that are just going on their break, some teams that are coming off. So the schedule's probably a little sparser than it normally would have been 10 years ago before this 5-day break thing started. Minnesota beat Winnipeg 4-1 in Minnesota. Matt Dumba got 2 goals for the Wild in that game. Winnipeg has a fantastic home record, but on the road they're a little more human. But they were human yesterday. They lost 4-1. In a game that you and I watched the entirety of, Boston beat Montreal 4-3 in a shootout. Mm-hmm. And probably we can talk later on about
I have that on my list.
The game and the things that happened in the game and the coverage and the injury to Danault and all of that. So anyway, 4-3 in a shootout for Boston. Pretty interesting game.
It was good.
Overall.
It was good, yeah.
Philadelphia beat the New Jersey Devils 5-3. And Couturier got his 2 goals, now has 25 on the season.
He's having a great year.
Fantastic. Wow. Fantastic. And there was a goal in that game. Did you see any of the highlights from that game?
No, I didn't actually. No.
There was a goal in that game that was just amazing. Claude Giroux was credited with the goal. It was the tying goal in the second period. At that moment, New Jersey was up on Philly 2-1. And Giroux got credit for the goal because he took a slap shot from back around the slot area. Mm-hmm. He really rifled it. But it bounced off of Simmons on the way in. So ultimately, Simmons got the goal.
Okay.
But the coolest part was the second assist. Giroux ended up getting the first assist. The second assist was Voracek. And what he did was he was standing right in front of the net, and I forget who was on the right-hand side, and basically passed it to Voracek. But he saw Giroux over beside him on his left, and he used his skate to deflect the puck over to Giroux, and Giroux rifled it.
Jeez.
It was probably the coolest play of the day of all the games.
Players like that can do stuff like that without even thinking. So,
fantastic. Yeah. It was so well done. So I encourage you and the listeners to have a look at that if you get a chance.
Yeah, I definitely will. Yeah.
Also, Colorado beat Dallas 4-1. Nathan McKinnon again. Now he's got 19.
Whew.
He's just unreal.
Has that team on his back.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Fantastic, yeah. San Jose scored with 15.4 seconds left in the third to tie the game 5-5, and then beat Arizona 6-5 in overtime.
Pickles.
Yeah.
My boy Pickles.
Yeah. Mark-Edward Vlasic got the tying goal. Mm-hmm. The overtime winner was Donskoy, right? No, or was it?
No, Vlasic got the
winner. Yeah, the overtime winner, right. Donskoy got 2 goals in that, though, and did well. Anaheim beat the Kings 4-2. I haven't watched the highlights, but I heard about it. Did you hear about it?
I heard that there might be a hearing.
At least one, maybe. I don't know. In a 4-second stretch in the time clock in the first period between 2:29 and 2:33, there were 3 knuckle chucks.
Well, I heard that Cogliano laid a hit on Kempe.
Yeah, and I don't know if that...
Wait, what game are you talking about?
I'm talking about Anaheim over LA 4-2.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about a different game for a second.
No.
Yeah, Cogliano hit Kempe apparently.
Oh, is that right? That has nothing to do with what I...
No, but he's an Iron Man.
Yeah.
He's like, he has the record in the NHL for most games played without missing them. It's like 8 seasons in a row or something crazy like that. If he gets suspended because of his hit, like that jeopardizes his entire Iron Man streak.
And maybe does it go to Alzner after that?
No.
He's got a huge Iron Man streak going too, you know.
He does?
He's got like 500 and some games.
No, he doesn't.
He does so.
Are you serious?
I crap you not.
I will look that up after
You
this
do.
podcast.
You look up Alzner Iron Man. You look him up. Anyway, there was lots of fighting in this game, and you know, you think Anaheim and the Kings, California, not really hockey culture as far as put them up.
What do you expect them to do? Get martinis and sit up by a beach?
Well, it's California. Isn't that what they do out
Play
there?
some beach hockey?
Curtis McDermott went with Jared Boll. Andy Andrioff went with Kevin Bieksa. And Kyle Clifford went with Nick Ritchie. 3 separate fights at 3 separate puck drops over a 4-second period.
Okay, I need to see these highlights then.
So we'll have to dig those up. Pardon me. So anyway, the Ducks won the game, and Kessler scored again, as he's been doing. Edmonton and Vegas Golden Knights. That was a really interesting game. I watched all of the third period this morning, and I didn't want to know the score ahead of time, so I watched it as a spectator. Edmonton beat the Golden Knights 3-2 in overtime. So Vegas still stole a point. That means they've not had a regulation loss now in, I don't know how long, since 1970 or something like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was a good game.
And the most important number in that game, you know what the 50-50 draw prize was?
$29,000.
$70,000.
Oh, can we go there, please?
Can you imagine? I went to Las Vegas and come home with $70,000. They think you were some roulette jockey or something.
How'd you win it?
50-50 at a hockey game.
I won at a hockey game.
$70,000 plus. That's crazy. The Islanders beat the Rangers 7-2. Another dominating performance. Barzal. And I have a story about Barzal and that record that he just tied.
All right.
In doing that, because he got 2 goals and 5 points in that game. And as a rookie, that's a very rare thing to happen, and it's even more rare to happen twice in a season. And Barzal has joined a very interesting club, and there's more about that later on.
Can I guess the other people in the club?
I'll be asking you to.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Can I just stop you just for a second?
Sure.
I just want to talk about the Iron Man thing, because I have it up here on the screen.
Oh, good, okay.
Cogliano has 829 games without missing one. Keith Yandel, 675. Patrick Marleau, 669. Phil Kessel, 654. And Carl Alzner, 582.
582, there you go. Now, you didn't believe me.
I didn't think it was impossible. I just never would have guessed him to be an Iron Man. But
I didn't realize he was still that far down the list, though. I thought he was quite up there.
Cogliano is about, I think it's like 40-ish away, 50-ish away from Steve Larmer for third overall, like all time.
And what's his number right now?
Cogliano?
Yeah.
829.
829.
Larmer's got 884.
That's 10 seasons.
Gary Unger has 914, and Doug Jarvis has 964, which is the total first place record.
Wow. Gary Unger, that's another name from the past. Former St. Louis Blue as well.
I have breaking news from Sportsnet. Canadians Danault released from hospital after taking puck. So
wow,
he's been released. So
that is fantastic news, boys. It looked grim when it happened. I guess maybe we'll save that for later. For later, but wow. Yeah, the Barzal, he was on fire. And Beauvillier got a couple of goals as well.
I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's great. Pittsburgh over Detroit, 4-1. Looks like Pittsburgh's starting to find their stuff.
3 games in a row.
Yeah, and they're back now mathematically tied with Carolina, but they're actually ahead because they've got some games in hand, and they're actually sniffing at a playoff spot now. Excuse me, wild card.
I mean, it's expected. It's just frustrating because I'm so sick of seeing Pittsburgh. But
yeah, and in that game, the big players are producing. Crosby got his 16th. Kessel got his 19th. Malkin got 2 goals, and he's now got 19. Not bad.
Kessel is the man. I make fun of him a lot for all his hot dog stuff and his hamburger stuff, but
I do too.
Man, what a talented player! Seriously.
Yeah, he really is.
He's something else. He got robbed of that trophy there in the playoffs a couple of years ago. I think it was 2 years ago.
I don't know.
The first one that they went on, he should have won that. But
Is he a fitter guy than he looks? Because he's got this round face. You know, he looks like a guy who's just come in from Wendy's.
Yeah,
you know?
I think it's just a face thing. Because look at no one that out of shape or that fat can skate like he does. Like he's one of the fastest skaters in the league. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
It's really something, isn't it? So those are the scores from last night. There's some other standings and stats we usually talk about later on. No hurry on that stuff.
Are you watching any games today?
I hadn't thought about that. There's football today, and I was gonna.
I plan on watching a little bit of football too, but there is a game this afternoon, actually, that might be worth watching.
All right.
I'm pretty sure Chicago plays Detroit this afternoon, and Jeff Glass is going to play for Chicago.
Oh, again?
Yeah.
Again.
So I'm probably going to watch that game.
Well, and that by itself, Jeff Glass's appearance in net for the Blackhawks was an amazing story, and there's more to come.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they play at 1:30.
Oh, really? Yep. Okay.
So in 25 minutes.
You talked me into it. By the time anyone hears this, the game will have ended.
Exactly, yeah.
So we don't know yet. Isn't that amazing? How we can travel through time?
Crazy. Let's make a prediction right now then. Who wins and what score?
Well, Chicago and Detroit, they're going in different directions. I think Chicago will beat Detroit. It'll be closer than on paper. So I'm going to say it's 4-3.
4-3 in regulation?
Yeah.
I'm going to say it's 3-1 Detroit.
Ooh.
In obviously regulation.
Ooh.
Yeah. Empty netter, though.
You are bold. You are bold. Okay. So 3-1 Detroit, but Glass only lets in 2 of them.
Yeah. I just had to be different. So.
All right. Well, now we have something to cheer for or against or whatever.
That's right. Yeah.
Our prediction. While we're on the Golden Knights, I just have to say that their ability to hang on to that point still has them on pace for about 120 points this year right now.
That's unbelievable.
And when you look at other professional expansion franchises in other sports, you see how amazing this is. The best ever in the National Basketball Association for an expansion franchise to do in its first year was the 1966-67 Chicago Bulls, and they went 33-48.
Wow. Holy crap.
In football, the best ever start for an expansion team was the 1995 Carolina Panthers, and they went 7-9.
Oh, jeez.
And in Major League Baseball, the best start for an expansion team ever was the California Angels in 1961, and they went 70-91. So in every other sport, the inaugural season has been a losing season and still impressive.
So this is really a fairy tale event.
This is a different universe right here, what they're doing.
And we were talking yesterday, because last podcast we talked about should we actually go see our first playoff game this year? Mm-hmm. Kind of like, really take the opportunity to go down into Carolina or Tampa Bay or somewhere else. And we get talking last night, and we forgot about Vegas. Vegas is kind of an option because we can't really go to Anaheim or Los Angeles or San Jose because those teams might not make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. There's 2 teams basically that are in a pretty good spot because we would want to book our tickets soon because because the prices are really good right now. 2 teams, Tampa Bay and now Vegas. I never even thought of them last time, but Vegas ticket prices would be a little bit more expensive than in Tampa Bay, but what better team to see in their inaugural season, their first round ever of the team in the play, that would be amazing.
It would be amazing.
It'd be hard to get a ticket.
It would.
But it would be very exciting, to be a part of that.
Yeah, it sure would be. And, the whole town is on fire. Hotels would be easy to come by, I would think, because if there's one place where you're not going to struggle to find a hotel, it's going to be Las Vegas.
Exactly, yeah.
And probably a hotel at a decent price, because hotel prices there aren't that crazy because they make their money downstairs. So, that part of it all works. All the economy works. Flights to and from, we get points. Prices are good these days and all of that. It would just be the game itself that would be the challenge.
Yeah, trying to find a ticket.
Yeah.
I don't know what the best way to go about that would be, but
Yeah, and someplace even like StubHub, you wouldn't see anything show up until the playoff tickets would be released. And they often will do that with weeks left to go in the regular season once it's a sure bet. And they just sell them as, home playoff game round 1, number 1.
Right.
You don't know, again, who it is or what day it is, but it's just the ticket has the number of the game on it, and that's all.
Any Vegas fans or anyone in that area, if they can let us know, like, how do you buy your tickets, or what best way we could buy some tickets.
Or do you have somebody?
Do you have somebody?
Do you have people that can call our people?
Well, we're not looking for free tickets.
No.
We're just looking for available tickets.
Yeah, we want access to two seats together.
Yeah.
Probably the first week of the playoffs, because it looks like if Vegas will keep on this run, they will end up with home ice in the first round.
Yeah, second week of April probably.
Yeah, so that's really what we're looking at. Game 1 would be awesome. Game 2 would be fantastic. Both would be super duper amazing. And they'll only be 2 days apart, so going to be in Vegas anyway. Got to see the sights.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Hoover Dam,
Grand Canyon.
Grand Canyon. Yeah, it's there's elements of that nearby. I'd like to actually. You've been to California and I haven't, so I'd like to take a rental car and head for Barstow, and to California.
100% down with that.
I want to see the Mojave Desert.
The Mojave Desert.
The Mojave Desert.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Is there salt flats nearby?
There's some in Bonneville, but I don't know where that is. Reference, the main highway from Vegas down towards LA. I don't know.
Where's Death Valley?
It's in California, but it's I think it's a little north of that, but
it's down by like real southern California.
I honestly don't know, and I would have studied up a bit if I'd known, but.
Kind of off topic here, but
yeah, I'd like to see. I'm a bit obsessed with the desert. I think that's just cool. I want to see some cactus and tumbleweeds and all that stuff too.
Yeah, heck yeah.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Oh jeez. Anyways, I put you off topic there. Did you have anything else to say about Vegas, or?
Well, just their home record right now. It's the best in the league. They're 18-2-2 at home.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And that I calculate that to be an 8.63 average. So in other words, they've got 86.3% of the points that they could have had if they'd won everything.
What's the highest amount of points a team has gotten in the regular season in the NHL?
Ever? I think we're looking at...
I think it's like 132. I think it's Detroit.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to look it up.
You know who's got the second best home record in the NHL right now?
No.
The Winnipeg Jets.
Oh, I never would have guessed that.
Me neither. 16-3-1.
Wow.
That's incredible.
But it doesn't surprise me because that place is rocking.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. The Bell MTS Center. Third place is the Tampa Bay Lightning, 17-4-1. And the fourth best team at home is now the Washington Capitals.
Very interesting.
Go figure. They've all got impressive records. They're all at least 7-5-0 or above at home. So, hard to play against.
It looks like the Montreal Canadiens with 132 points in the 76-77.
Oh, yeah, okay. That makes sense. And that's before they were even playing 82 games. I think they're only playing 78 games.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. That's the year I think they only lost 7 games all year long.
That's spooky.
It's very spooky. It's considered like the best hockey team to ever take to the ice.
Wow. Well,
ever.
In a segue, speaking of old people, Lou Lamoriello, I'd like to talk about this. Okay. This is going to be a topic that I don't want to be offensive with, but I have a very strong opinion. And just before I start this, I don't think I'm right. This is just how I feel. So, I fully expect, and I know that people have the opposite opinion of me, and you might even have the opposite opinion of me.
We haven't talked about it.
I
know the topic, but we haven't discussed the meat.
So Lou Lamoriello does not let the players of the Toronto Maple Leafs grow any kind of facial hair. I think he does in the playoffs, obviously, because that's a thing, but just in general, he doesn't allow them to grow facial hair. And I personally think that is absolutely ridiculous. I think, what is the purpose of it? I just don't understand, because it doesn't make you any less professional to have a facial hair. I just don't like this whole cookie cutter thing. Why? I'm a very creative person. I like to express myself, and having someone to tell me that I can't express myself. Some guys do express themselves with their beard. Look at Joe Thornton and Brent Burns and Derek Englund before he went to Vegas, and now he has to shave it because Vegas has the same policy. You're not allowed to have facial hair. I think it's ridiculous. Like, it's completely unneeded. It's just another reason to keep someone down.
Wow. You're wound up.
I think it's silly. I understand the professionalism. You want to have this image of professionalism stuff. Look at tattoos.
Well, while we're on that topic, let's talk about tattoos.
Do you think, I know you don't like tattoos.
I don't.
But do you think someone with a tattoo is any less professional? Like if
well, it depends on the profession, but that could be a yes.
But you work in an office. If there was someone there with tattoos, would you take them any less professional because they had tattoos? What if they were your best worker?
Well,
and they were completely respectful, the most respectful person in the office, but they had tattoos.
Well, with tattoos, often it depends where it is, right?
On the arm, right here.
Right there on the arm.
Or you can see it just like a beard.
Yeah. Well, and not if you have a long sleeve shirt on. So you mean like mid-arm area. So if they dressed up, if they had to have a suit on, you wouldn't see it.
No,
okay.
But
I'm all right with that.
Most office people have.
Yeah. But I don't want like some snake's tail crawling up some guy's neck and pointing towards his left eye. That's a tattoo like that. It does not look professional. It looks.
Yeah, but we're not like.
It's a freak show.
But I'm not talking about like face tattoos and stuff. I'm like normal like arm tattoos or something like that.
So where it is important.
Well, I guess in a way, yeah. I mean,
and I'm old, right? So, and I can say that, and of course, it hasn't stopped you from saying it either. But I'm from a previous generation,
right?
And that's fine. Back when I was, 15 years old, the only people that had tattoos were sailors. And it wasn't a body art wasn't a thing. And I get that it's a thing now. It's a thing for people that are a lot younger than me. But I've seen a few people that were my age now. And they were my age when they got their tattoo when they were 20.
Yeah.
And the tattoo has changed its shape.
Yeah, but here's the thing. When you get that old, you don't care about, like, you already know you're downhill, so you don't care what you look like.
Well, I guess I got dressed up and fancy for nothing today.
I mean, look at Tyler Seguin. He had tattoos in both arms. He has sleeves in both arms.
Yeah.
What if he went to a team that had a no tattoo policy?
Well, he wouldn't. He just wouldn't. The team wouldn't sign him. He can't undo the tattoos.
You're not going to sign Tyler Seguin because he has tattoos? Are you that, like, delusional?
I don't know.
Like, that's ridiculous.
To me, professional, in my world, professional is you're in an office. You're not in a hockey dressing room. So to me, a hockey dressing room is a different place. So, and I care less about that there.
So you think they should be allowed to have beards?
I'm not saying that for sure. No.
Well, what's your opinion?
Well, thank you. My opinion is an owner of a team can decide, pardon me, what he wants his team to look like or what she wants her team to look like. And if that means no facial hair, then that's what it means. Now, the team will be smart enough to probably have that conversation with the people that it signs. I don't know.
Well, there was a baseball player who wouldn't sign with the Yankees because they have the same rule.
There you go. And there's the free market at work. He wouldn't sign with the Yankees, or they wouldn't sign him, so he gets to play somewhere else. Thankfully, there's 31 teams in the NHL, and they all have different policies and rules, and that's fine. Like, I look at the arrival of a team, right? The bus drives into the basement of Madison Square Garden, and all these guys get off the bus in three-piece suits, and they look sharp as heck.
Yeah, of course they do.
And then Grizzly Adams gets off the bus with his three-piece suit on.
Who cares if he's got a beard, though?
Well, I tell you, I love Brent Burns, okay? I love him. And I like Scott Thornton, or Joe Thornton, rather.
Scott Thornton.
Scott, well, family ties.
I get you.
But I like Joe Thornton, and I don't mind a hockey player having a beard. I personally don't mind it. If I had a team, if I was the owner of a team, I would not mandate that.
Okay, cool.
But I would not also say that Lou Lamoriello should not be allowed to decide what his players look like.
I think it's suppression of creativity. I think people should be allowed to express themselves, especially hockey players.
When I first heard of the beard ban in some professions, I was... I've worn a beard or a goatee basically all my life. Excuse me. The only time I haven't had facial hair.
You had a creepy mustache
I had a creepy mustache for a little while.
But everyone did back in the 80s and 90s.
Well, yeah. And also, like in the year 2000, and I remember vividly, you might not, but in the year 2000, you're like 14 years old, but the Y2K thing comes along.
Yeah, I remember that.
We're all staying down, the whole family, all my mother's side of the family, the extended cousins. We have this whole hotel booked, basically, and we have a big dinner that night.
The old Mayor Mitchie.
And we had a photo session where we had, you know, the whole family group had contracted a photographer to come and take family photos of everybody on New Year's Eve night, 1999, 2000. And I, thinking perhaps that if this photo was looked at 100 years from now in some archival way, I'd look really stupid if I had facial hair that was only fashionable then.
Okay.
Because you see people now, you know, from 100 years ago with mutton chops and, you know, weird-looking sideburns and all that.
That stuff's all back in now, though.
Yeah, it is. Cycle. But so I shaved my goatee off.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you were not happy with me at all.
Probably not.
You were quite upset because you thought that I didn't look, and you didn't say the word badass, but you thought I needed to look meaner.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't look as mean.
All right.
With my goatee gone.
That's funny. I don't remember any of that.
Oh, yeah. I was like, oh, geez, really? So after the photos were done, I just, you know, only took a week or two, and I had my goatee back, so it wasn't a big deal. But back to my other point, when I first heard that some people aren't allowed to have facial hair in certain jobs, I thought that was crazy. But there is a scientific reason for at least some of these jobs. When I was a volunteer firefighter, we were discouraged from having beards. Because when you have a beard, you can't get a breathing mask on to put a Scott Air pack on your back and go into a burning house.
I completely agree with that.
Because the beard prevents a good seal being made. In the military, you can't have a beard, although in the Navy you are allowed in some professions. So sometimes there are real reasons why. But obviously, yes, in the case of Lamorello, it's just a personal preference on his part.
Yeah, just to go back to your story about your whole photo thing, you know what upsets me most about that entire story?
I don't know.
As a photographer, if someone wanted me to come take pictures of their family on New Year's Eve night, that's what's most upsetting to me. To get someone, like, taking someone away from whatever they were doing on New Year's Eve. But I guess if you're paying them, there's always someone, right?
Well, it wasn't midnight. We had started with the dinner, so the photographer was only there for 45 minutes.
Oh, so it wasn't like right at
6 p.m.
Okay.
No, they still went and they got their drink on later, I'm sure.
All right. Yeah, I just, like I said, I don't think I'm right. It's just how I feel. I think it's suppression of creativity, and they're just trying to be their own unique person, and I think it's absolutely silly.
Yeah, well, in case of Lamorello, and he's, you know, I don't think Lamorello has the Toronto tradition top of mind all the time, and I don't know what the regular Toronto tradition ever was in the past, but he wants his players to all look in his standards of decency when they hop off the bus and they're at any event. I don't think anyone really cares what they look like when they're on the ice, but when they got those suits on and they're representing the team and they're going to hospitals and whatnot, you know, he's old. He's even older than me, and that makes him really old. So, but if he owns a team,
it's not 1951 though. Like it's 2018. Let's get her caught up here. Let's let people express themselves.
I should correct myself. Obviously, he doesn't own the team, but he's
the president or whatever.
The owners are many and varied, but okay, that's fine. And it's just a personal preference thing. I think that there can be standards made and in workplaces for people's dress and deportment. I frankly think, and I hope I'm not too much out on a limb here, but I've worked in offices, and you know, in the last many years of my life, I've worked for the federal government of Canada, and there are people who work in some of the offices I've been in that are going around with shorts and flip-flops. Even though they don't see the public, and it doesn't affect their job performance, I don't feel that they're taking the job as seriously as someone who dresses nicer when they go to work. And to me, it's about respect for your colleagues, it's about respect for yourself. And when I go to work with a tie on, and I don't every day, but when I do, I actually feel better.
Yeah.
I feel that I can do better work when I have my tie on. It makes no sense. There's no science there.
No,
it's all about the feels.
I understand that. I like dressing up, actually. I know a lot of people don't like dressing up. I do. But it's the beard thing that gets me. Like, I think hockey players should dress up nice and stuff, and it looks nice, but I don't think a player looks any less nice just because they have facial hair. That's my opinion.
Yeah. It's the only, I shouldn't say it's the only sport, but it's the only sport I'm aware of, at least, where it is a tradition, not only in the professional level, but even down below. Like, I know
it's like religious.
Yeah, when you were a much younger fella and we were playing maybe a playoff game in Stanley or something, the other coach John and myself. I wasn't a coach, but I was a sometimes held the door kind of thing. That's about my hockey
doorman.
Yeah, the doorman. But we wouldn't even have to communicate ahead of time. You know, the game would be at 11 a.m. on a Sunday morning. It's the final game of the series. We'd both show up with a tie on. You know, the kids didn't come with ties on, you guys, but we had ties on, and it was just, you didn't have to say it. You just did it because it was respecting the game. You know, to dress up, and I think back even to the 60s at the Montreal Forum. People would go to the game.
Oh, everyone, yeah.
The men all had suits on and ties, and the women were decked out and had their nice hats on.
It's like going to church.
It was like going to church, and I regret those days are so far gone now.
It would be neat to see that, actually.
I would love it.
Yeah,
I would love it.
Anyways, yeah, sorry that was a little long-winded, but
that's great.
A good little debate I think we had. Moving on to other news, the Carolina sale finally went through officially, so the new owners are in. What changes can we expect? I don't really know. Hopefully they spend a little bit more to the cap. That's my only wish. But other than that, I don't think a lot of crazy stuff needs to happen. Maybe a little bit better marketing strategy to get better attendance. Maybe increase their global spread a little bit more and create fans from other places of the world.
Yeah, good luck to them. I hope they do great.
Yeah, definitely. Now, another dramatic fashion. There's oh man, I don't even want to talk about this because it makes me so upset.
Ooh.
The U.S. Army has filed a copyright trademark against the Vegas Golden Knights.
I did not know of this.
Yeah, so
does it look too much like a regiment or something? One of the
there's a I don't know if it's a regiment, but it's a division or whatever or something called the Golden Knights.
Oh, no.
And it was filed before when the team was announced. The team announced their name. I think they filed for it, but then they lost it or something like that, and then they refiled it in federal court or something like that. I don't know how it works. I don't know anything about that stuff, but they refiled it again. And can you imagine if the U.S. Army wins this and the Vegas Golden Knights have to change their colors, their logo, their team name? It would be devastating. It would think about all of the people who have merchandise of the team already. They think it's because of their success. They've sold so much. Like when you see a game there, everybody has Vegas merch.
Yeah,
I've seen people out walking in Charlottetown here with Vegas merch on. And then now, potentially next year, you're gonna have to have a new team name and a new logo.
Yeah, it won't come to that.
Oh,
even if they won, even if the court would not say anything other than compensation. Vegas, you have to do something in a positive way.
Like financially?
Yeah, could be financially or even publicity-wise, draw a linkage or whatever. I can't see the United States Army prevailing to the extent that it would have to make Vegas change what they've done. I don't think it'll ever get to that.
It's
That's
the
so
Army.
Unreasonable.
It's the Army. Of course they're going to be unreasonable.
Yeah, but it's the Army, and the Army works for the federal government of the United States, and they depend on the support of the people out there. And I don't think there would be a lot of public support for the federal government coming down on a professional sports team in that way. I just don't think it would ever get that far.
And I didn't mean to sound like I'm talking bad about the U.S. Army.
Oh, no. Oh, God, no.
I have all the love in the world for the U.S. Army. It's kind of a crappy situation that we have this to happen. But hypothetically, if they did have to change the logo and the team, I think they'd keep the colors and probably the same jersey design and stuff. So at least you'd have a little bit of a resemblance. Hopefully they could at least keep the colors. Worst case scenario, but like you said, I think it probably will never come to that. But crazy.
Wow.
So Philip Danault got hit last night in the head by a shot from Chara. I think they said it was going 120 kilometers an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
He got hit and looked to be the ear area, and he went down. He held his head, and he did not move for probably 3 to 4 minutes.
He didn't roll all around and squirm like a soccer player. He went down and he was motionless. He obviously was conscious because he had his hands up to his head, and he was covering his head, probably trying to keep his brains in, or because I'm sure he didn't know at that moment what had gone wrong with him. But his two legs, the way they were laying on the ice, they never moved for until they started to roll him over and get him on a backboard.
It was crazy.
Oh man, it's
Because
scary.
they tried to get him to see if he could get off the ice by himself, and he get up on his knees a little bit, and he was like, "No, I can't." Then he laid back down. They put him on the stretcher, and when they were taking him off, he couldn't even raise his arm to the crowd to say, "Hey, I'm okay." All he did was take off his glove and do a little point like that. Like, that's so scary. It's unbelievable.
They were really supporting his neck a lot too, and I wonder when he got hit, maybe even if the puck didn't go into his ear itself, but just hit him on the side of the head, the sideways jolt of a Chara slap shot on your head could really put quite a stun down your cervical spine.
Yeah, it like pinched a nerve or something like that, or who knows.
So that's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if his whole body went numb. You know, just from the sideways jerking motion that would have caused. And I got to say some very, very positive things about Chara here. You know, and I've been hard on the guy after the Pacioretty hit a few years ago, and different people watched that. Good friends of mine that don't see it the way I see it, but I thought that was a nasty hit, and I thought it could have been avoided, and I think Chara could have been the one who avoided it. But all that being said, last night he was nothing other than a class act the whole way through.
He was the person on the ice who cared the most. Yeah,
he instantly felt bad. The minute Danault went down, he skated over, leaned over, gave him a little tap with his stick, you know, kind of on the back of the leg, you know, and kind of leaned over and maybe touched him briefly, and then backed off as he should, as the trainer got there and the other players got there. But when all the other players were skating off the ice, this happened late in the second, with a minute and something left in the second.
Minute 37.
Which they decided to tack on to the third, so it ended up being the end of play for that moment. But still, the players hung around for a long time. The Zambonis didn't come out or anything. And even after all the other Boston Bruins had shuffled off and gone to the dressing room, Chara stayed there until Danault was in motion and going off the ice himself, and then went over again. Now, we didn't see it portrayed very well on TV because the freaking idiots who run Hockey Night in Canada's camera system, every time one of these touching moments was about to happen, they show some slobbering bean up in the crowd.
Yeah,
and I
scratching at his man parts and stuff.
Man, I was upset because this was the most beautiful moment in hockey, is when you see two players who are on opposing teams, you know, almost a forgive and forget thing, and you know, there's a moment happening on the ice, and just then they switch away.
Yeah,
These
idiots. Chara was coming over, leaning down over the stretcher in between the guys to say his, you know, sorry, whatever. I don't know what he said. It doesn't, like, we didn't even see it because they panned away to some person in the audience.
I did see it later because they showed it in a replay.
Well,
which was and it was everything I wanted it to be.
But this goes back to our main issue with Sportsnet and CBC. They've forgotten to how to tell a story.
Yeah, totally.
And they're just completely obsessed with thinking that they know what we want to see. And if they think that we don't want to see Chara go over and lean down to Danault and see that respect, if they think that we want to see someone in the audience, they are so far more gone than I thought they were.
Yeah,
they are completely delusional.
It was almost like they were looking for opportunities to drag our eyes away from what we wanted to see.
Yeah,
it happened several times.
I've never seen anything like it.
During that 5-minute span where Danault went down. Now, I realize we're not going to get a close-up of Danault. That's not appropriate. You want to pull back quite a ways so you don't see any gory detail, because at that moment, no one knows how bad it is. So you don't want to zoom in, and I appreciate that. As much as I wanted a better view, I understood why I wasn't getting that better view. But to switch away from that camera, just when something very touching is about to happen, to show some nose picker up in the third deck, it just drives me nuts. And I don't know what we can do about it.
There's nothing.
There's nothing we can do about it.
Literally nothing.
I wanted to go over and check on the French channel on TVA, which were showing the game, maybe with different camera angles. But just as I was reaching for the remote, I realized that we were on about a 5-minute delay on the PVR at that moment. So if I'd switched over, it would have been all over anyway, so it wouldn't have done any good. But I wish now that I was also recording TVA's broadcast, and I could go back and look at it later to see if they covered it any better. And I'm sure they did, because you couldn't cover it any worse than that.
It couldn't be any worse, that's for sure.
It was just pathetic.
Really, really, really frustrating. But
But I'm really glad to hear Danault's out today.
Yeah, so if they release him from the hospital, that probably means he left on his own accord and he can walk and stuff. And
oh yeah.
So that's really good news. Now I assume he'll he'll probably be put on long-term injury reserve with a concussion or something crazy like that. But
I'm sure he got his bell rung pretty big. Speaking of bell rung, Gallagher got a couple of whacks. I was worried about him for a while last night.
Gallagher is his own worst enemy. He runs into the boards all the time. He's falling down. It's like he's playing with butter on his skates or something. He's just
a tough little nut, boys.
Yeah. Next on my list is the whole Ottawa situation with. Now we're only talking about this because we got information because I think it was a Bantam team were playing in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know when it happened. The past
I think it was
couple
over
weeks.
the Christmas break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got the opportunity to go to a game between the Ottawa Senators and the San Jose Sharks, and it was a really special event for the kids. So they were trying to get the kids in to meet the players and to see, or just to see the locker rooms in general. And so this game was happening in Ottawa, and the Ottawa Senators denied the kids to come into the dressing room, and I'm sure there's a reason for that. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. But you know who didn't?
I'm guessing in the San Jose Sharks.
San Jose Sharks were like, yep, no problem, come on in. So the kids got to take pictures with Joe Thornton, the whole team, meet the whole team. It was a great experience. It kind of makes the Ottawa Senators look a little bad.
A little worse.
Or a little worse.
Than they already looked.
For different reasons.
Well,
but they're the hometown team.
Yeah.
So the away team, who is an American team, is going to let a Canadian, I know there's lots of Canadians on San Jose, but...
Yeah, but no, they are the hometown team, and further, they're the team that was in PEI for Hockey Day or for Kraft Hockeyville this year. Some of those kids were probably at the game.
Yes.
And maybe got autographs from the Ottawa players and couldn't wait to meet them.
Yes.
Again. And then they're told they can't. And then San Jose opens their door. Good stuff.
Good stuff, yeah. Guess who I blame for this?
Melnick.
Eugene Melnick. You piece of garbage.
Now, maybe he had nothing to do with that.
He probably
decision.
didn't know. I know he didn't. I'm just playing games.
But there may be just a general policy that, he may have set it down or at least approved it that, on game days no one gets in or, it could be something blanket like that.
Like I said, I know there's a reason.
Yeah. And then some flunky with a flashlight, in this first suit he ever owned in his life is saying no.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, it might be that simple.
It could be a million of different reasons. I'm just being funny and playing games. But
just referencing Don Cherry a little while ago, there's one other thing he said.
Sure.
And I think you and I both disagreed with him, but he said, and I think it was kind of a throwaway comment last night, where he didn't like it when players of opposing teams had conversations on the ice.
Yeah, O'Reilly and I can't remember who O'Reilly was talking to.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter who was talking.
Yeah.
He was complaining that they were talking on the ice in opposing teams.
Yeah, you're supposed to hate each other. You're not supposed to talk and how buddy, where are you going for dinner, and all that stuff, everything like that. I totally disagreed because I've heard enough audio where players are mic'd.
Oh, yeah.
When they're playing. And when they're talking on the ice, even if they don't look like they're mad at each other, they're talking some serious smack usually.
Yeah. Well, I played hockey. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
You talk some crap to the other team, and sometimes it's not all crap. Sometimes it's just about the weather.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. And I think you were saying that you had seen Hockey Noon or Hockey Central at noon.
Hockey Central at noon, yeah.
And Colby Armstrong was on the air the other day, and he was talking about how well the players get along on their little vacations.
When they do these bye weeks and stuff, a lot of them go down to the Bahamas or wherever, and they just randomly run into each other. And sometimes it's players that they see on the ice but have never spoken to, and they talk off the ice, make friends, and he said that Tuukka Rask is one of the nicest people, if not the nicest person in the entire world, and he never met him before. He met him randomly in the Bahamas. Mm-hmm. So,
and then you look back to the summer times when Brad Marchand and I think it's Brad Marchand,
and Gallagher
and Brendan Gallagher, they work out together, they train, they're buddies, they hang out.
Well, they played together in the World Cup, I think, didn't they?
I'm sure they did. And does anyone think that Brendan Gallagher or Brad Marchand leaves anything behind when they're playing each other? Absolutely not.
Sorry to interrupt. It's Lucic that he trains with in the summer.
Right. Okay.
But good. Gallagher has become friends with Marchand because they played together.
Okay.
So similar.
It was Lucic,
similar situations.
Yeah, because Gallagher and Lucic are both from BC and Marchand's from Halifax. That makes perfect sense. But then again, does anyone think that they're going to be easier on each other on the ice just because of that? Absolutely not.
They're going to hate each other.
We have some motion in the lava lamp, finally.
Heck yeah. Finally.
Took a while to warm up.
Okay, streaks. On the winning side, Calgary, 6-game winning streak.
Wow.
Heck yeah.
Wow.
Doing the same thing they did last year, hopefully. Colorado, 6 games, Nathan McKinnon. Philadelphia, 4. Pittsburgh, 3. And on to the losing side of things. The Los Angeles Kings have lost 3 games in a row. Winnipeg's at 2. Columbus is at 2. 2 games Columbus should have won, by the way. Those are tough losses. Rangers with 2. Detroit with 2. So, some tough stuff there. And speaking about Columbus, Jack Johnson, 31 years old, making $4.35 million, has requested a trade. What team does he go to?
I don't know. Jack Johnson's a troubled case.
He's been there for, I think this is his 7th season in Columbus.
Yeah. Are you aware of his money problems?
No.
He has very serious money problems. Jack Johnson is probably, when it comes to the amount of money you're taking home at the end of the day, he is very likely the lowest paid player in the National Hockey League.
What?
Because he's declared bankruptcy a couple of years back. Almost all of his salary goes to his creditors. He was financially hosed by his parents.
I knew that story. I didn't think it was Jack Johnson, though.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah. He's in, it's not good. It's not good at all. And the next several years, he's still under the gun. There's of the 8 different creditors that he owed, he settled with 6 of them, but there's still 2 that haven't made a deal yet, so they have a claim on stuff.
Wow.
His parents, his mother in particular, but his father as well. I read some articles about it this morning just to be sure I understood the story.
This is his last year of his contract.
Yeah.
And he's 31, so, I mean, if he gets paid less in his new contract, wherever he plays with next, that's tough.
And the creditors that he still owes, they're getting like a percentage of his next contract if it's a certain amount and if it's for a certain amount of time. So these things are all dangling for his future, no matter where he goes. I know that's not really the hockey question, but he's going to have to go to some place that will nurture him and hopefully help him get out. He's not like every other player that is putting money away. He's living hand to mouth, and he's had to sell off the things that he had, the toys that you get when you're when he first joined, when he first became a professional hockey player. He fired his agent. He signed power of attorney to his mother, and all kinds of bad stuff happened. He didn't even know about it. Like, it's not his fault, the poor guy.
That's crazy.
Like, it didn't go up his nose or anything like you'd think. When a player falls on hard times, he was just, his money was just so mismanaged by his own parents.
That's unbelievable.
You gotta, and you can't choose your parents. You know that better than anyone.
Unfortunately.
But anyway, I hope it works out wherever he goes.
Yeah.
But it won't be Columbus. And now they just started their break, so this is a good time for him to make that announcement. He was a +1 in the game the other night against whoever it was, Winnipeg or somebody, but he was a +1. Didn't get any points on the board, but he's a defenseman. He's not had that bad a season. He's been playing pretty well every game, and he's, I think, a -7 on the year or -5 or something. So he's not, horribly bad. He's playing 19, 20 minutes a night, so he's getting some ice time. He's contributing. He's a big guy. He's certainly not the great fit for other teams that are looking for D, like Montreal, for instance. To adopt that, for a long haul, I think is a mistake.
I do too, yeah.
Yeah, but maybe there's a team somewhere that needs a little more solidity on D, and they can bring him in.
I think he goes west.
Could be.
Yeah, I think he goes west. I don't know where, but I think he goes west.
Yeah, I hope for him. I hope it works out wherever he goes.
That's all I have. So
wow,
take it away.
Holy smokes! Okay, man, where do I start?
We're at 51 minutes, by the way.
Okay, I already talked about the podcast. Quickly, just going over the standings. You talked about the streaks. It gets grimmer and grimmer for the Atlantic Division all along. For the teams that aren't already in. And here's who's in. Tampa Bay is in with 21 points ahead of their. They have 21 points more than they need to have, basically. Boston is a +14 with 55 points. Toronto's a +8. Every other team in the Atlantic is a minus. Using my weird scoring system.
It's been pretty much settled, hasn't it?
It's settled. There's no way. There's no way anyone. Florida has a chance, maybe Detroit, but no, even they don't have a chance.
Like, Bergevin is delusional, thinking that Montreal can make.
Yeah, there's no, and we recorded our podcast last week before Bergevin had his press availability.
Right.
Later that day, last Sunday, but there's been a lot of very unhappy Montreal fans after Bergevin said some of the things he said. That he's pretty happy with how he's done things.
351 excuses he made.
Yeah, our goal wasn't to come in, $8 million under the cap. It just worked out that way. The money was on the table. The Russians walked away from it. I can't help that. It's not my fault. All those things are just making people's blood boil, as it should. But the Atlantic Division is pretty well set. The top 3 teams are going to the playoffs, and the rest aren't.
And the Metro is the exact opposite.
The exact opposite. Washington ahead with 59 points. They're a plus 14, followed by Columbus, New Jersey, the Rangers, and Pittsburgh, and then Philadelphia. Interestingly, Philadelphia has 1 point less than Pittsburgh, but they have games in hand.
They do.
So they actually have a better record than Pittsburgh. So if I were to hand out that last playoff spot right now based on my system, it would go to the Flyers, not to the Penguins. And then the Islanders and Carolina aren't too far behind. And even the worst teams in that division, the Islanders and Carolina, are light years ahead of the Atlantic.
It's unbelievable.
It's crazy.
It's amazing, actually.
In the Central, Winnipeg is on top, 59 points. They're a plus 13. Nashville has 56 points, and they're a plus 14 because they have 4 games in hand. So if Nashville plays at their current pace, they'll actually be ahead of Winnipeg when they make those games in hand up, unless they
that wouldn't surprise me.
Have a bad run. St. Louis is next in third with 55 points. They're a plus 9. And then you've got Minnesota, Dallas, Chicago, and Colorado, all at plus 7 or plus 6. So the worst team is Colorado. They're 49 points and a plus 7. And then you look at the Pacific. Vegas is obviously at the top, 61 with plus 19. So they're only 2 points or 2 plus factors behind Tampa Bay. So they did steal a point last night. The Kings are next, and then Calgary, and then San Jose. And then you've got Anaheim and Edmonton, both in the plus range. So they're within striking distance of a wild card spot. The only teams that are really out now are Vancouver and Arizona.
There's so much parity in the league. It's like, it's kind of bad in a way.
Yeah, I don't like it.
But I do like it.
We've had this
I like it a
conversation
lot
before.
Yeah, I love seeing new blood in the playoffs and stuff. I love an underdog story. So.
Oh, I do too. But I wish it wasn't from parody. I wish it was more dynasty based than parody based. But one thing I want to circle back to before I forget, and this is the Barzal accomplishment.
Oh, right. Yes.
5 points. Second time this season he's done that.
Yep.
Only 4 other players in the history of the National League as rookies have scored 5 points at least twice in their rookie season.
Okay.
And you were going to try to name them for me.
Lemieux.
No.
McDavid.
No.
Lafleur.
No.
Gretzky.
No.
Crosby.
No.
Ovechkin.
No.
Bure.
No.
Hull.
No.
I give up. I don't know.
Brian Trottier.
Okay.
He did it twice with the New York Islanders when he was playing for them in his rookie season, 75-76. The only other 3 players to have done this are brothers.
Are they Savards?
No. They're not Plagers, and they're not Stalls.
Oh.
And they're not Suitors or Sutters.
This is interesting. I don't know.
Stastnys.
Oh, really?
Really, and this is the coolest story. And it's not a new story. It's just a story that, because of the generational change in the NHL, a lot of people don't know about. But Peter Stastny did it in 80-81 for the New York Islanders, or for the Quebec Nordiques. His brother Anton Stastny did it the same year for the same team. And the following year, the brother Marion Stastny did it the same for the same team.
Holy crap.
So you've got 3 brothers.
Amazing.
And they're all playing on the Quebec Nordiques. So now with Barzal and Trottier and the 3 Stastny brothers, this has happened 5 times in the history of the NHL, spread over only 2 teams. 3 Nordiques and 2 Islanders.
That's so spooky.
It is weird.
Huh.
Now, the whole Stastny story is fantastic because, and this is a very quick trip through history here, but at the end of World War II, or just as it was ending, the Allies all sat down and drew a line across the map of Europe as to who was going to influence what. And the British and the French and the Americans on one side, and the Soviet Union on the other side, essentially defined their spheres of influence. Germany was cut in, well, it was cut into four, but one of the quarters was Russian and the other three were Allied or NATO-type countries. Austria stayed with the West. Czechoslovakia stayed with Russia. Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, Romania, Poland, East Germany, they all were in the Russian sphere. And Czechoslovakia was a country that was formed and rammed together after World War I and was still there after World War II. So Slovaks and Czechs living in the East and West respectively, not particularly fond of each other, but stuck in the same country. So the Stastny brothers are all from a place called Bratislava, which at the time was a large country or city in the country of Czechoslovakia. Now it's the capital of Slovakia. Okay, so they're Slovaks.
Yep.
And Bratislava is only, I don't know, 30 kilometers from Vienna, Austria. So they're very close. In fact, the Austrian border was just on the border of the city, really. All three players were Czech superstars. And the Czechoslovakian, and of course we called them the Czechs, even though it was actually Czechoslovakian. So that probably didn't help. But anyway, they were superstars. They were all in the 1980 Olympics. So they played, you know, in the Miracle on Ice season.
Right. Yep.
They and the Czechs came fifth that time in the medal round or in the Olympics. Anyhow, in 1979, on a whim, the Quebec Nordiques drafted Peter Stastny. They selected him in the draft just so they'd have the rights to him if they could ever get him. Because people weren't allowed to cross the border back then. Except these players were so elite that they were allowed, if they were going to hockey tournaments, to go to some Western countries. So it so happened that Peter Stastny and Marion Stastny were in Innsbruck, Austria in 1980 during an international hockey tournament. And Austria was a Western country. They made it be known. They were getting upset with how they were being treated and the oppression going on in Czechoslovakia from the Russian-controlled government. They made it be known to the Quebec Nordiques that they were available if they could be found or caught or picked up. So the Quebec Nordiques got a hold of the Canadian Embassy, and they sent a vehicle to Innsbruck. And these two guys and Marion's wife got into a vehicle and drove through the middle of the night to Vienna and went to a hotel just to spend the night. When they're at the hotel, there's a knock on the door. It's the police. And he's scared, Peter's scared to death to open the door. And it's a woman police officer. She says, no, it's okay. I've got the Canadian Embassy staff here with me. So they all run downstairs, the three of them, the wife and the two players, hop into a car and speed through the streets of Vienna, basically being chased by the, you know, Czechoslovakian Secret Service or whatever that are trying to spy on them or watch them. And they make it to the Canadian Embassy, and they apply for asylum, and they fly them to Quebec.
Dang.
Now, there's a third brother, right?
Right.
And that's Anton. So it's, Peter and Anton went. Of course, Marion stayed behind, because Marion was married with 3 kids. And he was on the trip with them in Innsbruck, but he just couldn't go.
Right,
I mean, his wife and 3 kids back home. So, and he only knew about their plan a couple hours before it happened.
Right.
He was very, very upset at the time that they were leaving him behind, you know.
Yeah.
But he
Of
couldn't,
course,
he couldn't go. But when he went back to Czechoslovakia, he was an outcast because they figured he knew about it, he was in on it, or whatever. He lost his position on the team. They told him he was off the team. You're done. You're done. He was a trained lawyer, but he couldn't practice law. He was done that. He had no career. He couldn't play hockey. He couldn't practice law. He had nothing. So his brothers found a way to secretly send him money to keep him going. And then, to throw the authorities off, he did renovations to his house in Bratislava. You know, he took some trips and always came back. You know, and eventually, after, you know, several months, they stopped spying on him as much. And he went to Yugoslavia with his family on supposedly a family trip. Yugoslavia had a border with Austria as well. And using fake papers, he went from Yugoslavia to Austria, picked up the phone and said, "We're here." And they flew them over. So the 3 brothers were reunited on the Quebec Nordiques for the 81-82 season.
Wow.
And went all crazy. There was only one player that scored more goals and had more points than Peter Stastny in the entire decade of the 1980s, and that was Wayne Gretzky. Stastny was number 2.
That's magical.
It is magical. And of course, Peter Stastny's got 2 sons who play hockey. One of them who is still playing.
Yeah, Colorado. I think. Or no, sorry, he's St. Louis.
Yeah, he's now with St. Louis. Yeah, that's Paul. And interestingly, when Paul started with Colorado, he was playing with Joe Sakic and Ian LePerriere,
who played with
his dad in Quebec City. How cool is that?
That's amazing.
Anyway, very international intrigue. You got spies, you got high-speed cars. He said when they were going to the Canadian Embassy in Vienna, they were going the wrong way on one-way streets. They were driving on sidewalks.
Whoa.
He said it was just like Formula One without the Formula One car, he said.
Gee.
It's a great story. And there's been some documentaries. TSN is about a 20, 25-minute documentary on this when it happened from a couple of years back. You can find it on the internet. It's fantastic. And it has to do with hockey. At a time when hockey wasn't really possible for those from Eastern Europe, and they really broke the mold, these guys. They weren't the very first. The very first player to defect and play in North America was Vaclav Nedomansky, who defected back in 1974. But really, when the Stasnys did it, it became, more of a possibility. And Czechoslovakia was in the Soviet influence and really a hard-to-get-to country till about 1993. So not that long ago.
Interesting. There's still changes in that area of the world today.
Oh, yeah.
Because they went from the Czech Republic, now they're just called Czechia, I guess, apparently.
Yep.
And that's another...
Yeah, that'll take some getting used to.
Yeah. I guess some people contacted us from Czechia and said that it's just a joke. No one actually calls it that.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. The last thing I have is some stats from individual players, just like we usually do every week. Who do you think's leading the points race?
It's got to be Kucherov. I think he's 6 or 7 points ahead of everyone else, I think, isn't he?
He's got 60, and he's 6 points ahead of the next guy, which is Giroux, who's got 54. There's a 3-way tie with 53 points. Goals.
Kucherov or Ovechkin.
You're right on. Ovechkin has 28. Kucherov has 27. There are a couple of players tied with 25. Couturier and Anders Lee. So they're not doing too bad. Hedman has plus minus.
Oh, it's got to be Schwartz or whatever.
Schwartz is now second with he's a plus 23. Hedman has passed him with a plus 24.
But now Hedman's injured too.
Yeah.
So they both their plus minuses are gonna stay.
So Schwartz comes back and gets a plus 1. He's tied for the lead again. Goals against average.
Is Carter Hutton still?
It is Carter Hutton. Yeah, 1.84. The only one still below 2. After that is Vasilevsky and Rask. Wins is
Vasilevsky.
It is Vasilevsky with 27. The next highest is Holtby with 24. And save percentage?
Hutton.
Yeah, Carter Hutton, 940. Vasilevsky's 930. Crawford's 929. And guess who is in 4th place now, save percentage? I was shocked.
Fleury? Rask?
He's more Fleury's age.
I don't know.
Roberto Luongo.
Really? Huh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
He's a 928 as of this morning. Fourth place in save percentage. Who would have thought that?
Very interesting.
I think it's great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
All right. Well, I got nothing else either. So, guys, thank you very much for listening or watching this podcast. Whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on iTunes, Google Play, or any podcatcher you have, we really appreciate you coming back every week and listening to us or watching us on YouTube. If you are on YouTube and this is your first experience with us, we hope you hit the subscribe button. If you like this podcast, hit the like button, and we'll see you in the next one. Adios.